If you grew up without any siblings, you've probably heard all of this before. You must be spoiled. You don't know how to share. No wonder you're so awkward around people your age. For decades, being an only child was treated almost like a diagnosis. But here's what's strange. When psychologists actually studied only children instead of just assuming things about them, the results didn't match the stereotype at all. In the next few minutes, we're going to go through exactly what's actually going on in the mind of an only child. The real patterns backed by research, not the playground myths. And if you are one or you're raising one, some of this might explain a few things about yourself that you never quite understood. The spoiled myth. In the 1980s, psychologist Tony Falbo ran one of the largest reviews ever done, comparing only children to kids with siblings, looking at things like sociability, self-esteem, and how well they got along with others. The stereotype at the time was that only children would come out selfish, dependent, and socially behind. But the data told a different story. Only children scored just as well, and in some categories slightly better, on personal adjustment and motivation. They weren't less liked by their peers either. So why did the spoiled brat idea stick around for so long? Because it's an easy story to tell. One child, all the attention, all the resources. It sounds logical on paper. But the mechanism that actually shapes an only child isn't spoiling. It's something closer to constant exposure to adult conversation and adult problem solving, simply because there's no sibling to split that attention with. Here's the honest nuance. This isn't automatic. A child with siblings raised by attentive, engaged parents can end up with the exact same traits. Being an only child doesn't guarantee anything on its own. It just changes the odds slightly because of how the household is structured. Adultification. Alfred Adler, one of the earliest psychologists to study birth order seriously, noticed something specific about only children. Without siblings to negotiate, argue, or compete with, they spend a much higher percentage of their early years talking to and modeling behavior after adults. That's the mechanism. It's not that only children are born more mature, it's that their main social template growing up is adult conversation, not sibling conflict. You can see this play out in something as simple as vocabulary. Only children often develop a more advanced vocabulary earlier, not because they're smarter, but because the people around them talking to them are using adult vocabulary, constantly at the dinner table, in the car, everywhere. Where this becomes a double-edged sword is socially. That same kid who can hold a conversation with a 40-year-old with ease might genuinely struggle to read the room with a group of 8-year-olds. Because negotiating with someone your own size who doesn't care about your feelings is a completely different skill. One that siblings usually teach each other by accident, through years of arguing over the remote control. Imaginary companions. Developmental psychologist Marjorie Taylor spent decades studying imaginary companions at her imagination lab, and her research pushed back hard on the idea that this is a warning sign. Kids with imaginary friends tend to be less shy than other kids, and better at focusing their attention and seeing things from someone else's point of view. To be precise, Taylor's research is about children in general, not only children specifically. This isn't a phenomenon unique to kids without siblings, but it's easy to see why only children get associated with it more often in everyday conversation. With no built-in playmate in the house, there's simply more unstructured time to fill, and inventing a companion is one of the ways a young imagination fills it. Here's the part people get wrong. This isn't a sign of loneliness or dysfunction. If anything, it lines up with what Taylor's work actually found. Kids who do this tend to be more socially perceptive, not less. Fear of disappointing. Because parental attention and expectation isn't divided between multiple kids, only children often report feeling like the sole carrier of their family's hopes. There's no sibling to share the pressure with, and no one to quietly take the difficult kid role instead. Psychologists sometimes describe this as an internalized sense of being the family's only shot. The mechanism behind the perfectionism isn't really about talent or ambition, it's about consequence. If a child with 3 siblings fails a test, it's one data point among many. If an only child fails a test, it can feel, internally, like the entire family's outcome just took a hit. When this works in someone's favor, you get exactly the kind of high achievement and motivation that Falbo's research documented. When it doesn't, you get adults who struggle to separate their self-worth from their performance and who take ordinary mistakes far harder than the mistake actually deserves. Conflict avoidance and need for space. This is the pattern that tends to surprise people the most. Adults who grew up without siblings often report needing more alone time in relationships than their partner does, and struggling with the ordinary, low-stakes bickering that people with siblings consider completely normal. Growing up, a small disagreement over a toy that gets resolved an hour later is basic training for conflict resolution. An only child simply had fewer reps of that training growing up. This doesn't mean only children are bad at relationships. Falbo's data specifically pushes back on that idea. It means the type of conflict, small, repeated, low stakes, is less familiar territory, so it can initially feel more threatening than it actually is. Sense of independence. One pattern that also shows up in many only children is comfort with being alone. Since they spend more of childhood entertaining themselves, solving problems independently, and interacting without a sibling constantly nearby, being by themselves often feels normal rather than uncomfortable. That's different from loneliness. In psychology, the ability to enjoy solitude is generally associated with healthy autonomy, not social isolation. Of course, this varies from person to person, but for many only children, needing occasional time alone isn't a sign that something is wrong. It's simply the environment they grew up in becoming part of how they naturally recharge. So here's the actual picture that emerges once you set the stereotypes aside. Growing up without siblings doesn't create one fixed personality type. It creates a specific set of conditions: more adult exposure, more unstructured time, more concentrated expectation. And depending on the household, those conditions can produce very different outcomes. Some only children become exceptionally independent and driven. Others carry the pressure of being their family's only shot a little too heavily. Most carry a mix of both. If you're an only child, let me know in the comments which one of these actually hit close to home. I read every single one. And if you've got a sibling and you're wondering what your own birth order says about you, that's exactly what we're covering next: the psychology of the oldest child, and why they end up so different from their younger siblings, even in the exact same house. Let me know in the comments what your experience has been like. I'll see you in the next video, where we'll talk a little about the older brother.